Hello and welcome back. We have a project today, and it is a time-consuming project, but it is a fun project. We are going to make a t-shirt quilt. The chamber here in town has given us a box of shirts from all the chamber years that they've been doing shirts. So we've got multiple shirts like this with a pocket. Here's another one. So lots of different shirts. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this together into a t-shirt quilt that they can hang at the chamber and they can use however they want. But I know they had said they were going to hang it. So that's what we're gonna work on today. So we're gonna get started. Let me get the supplies ready, get it started, and I'll show you what I do. I'm gonna take these shirts first off, and I'm going to dump them out of the box. And then I'm going to set them to the side. I'm going to take this, which is P44F. And this is a very, very thin stabilizer. And you look at it and you think that's not going to do any good, but it does. When you are working with t-shirts, and everybody knows how a t-shirt feels, but when you work with this, you know how it stretches when you're wearing it? It does the same when you're trying to make a t-shirt quilt. So you don't want this to stretch. So in order to stop that, you iron this to the back of it. And then it stabilizes it. It doesn't move and wiggle on you. It's easier to quilt. So that's what we're gonna do. The first thing we're gonna do though, is we're gonna take these shirts and we are going to cut them. So I'm gonna bring you down to the table so you can see more closer what I'm doing. Now what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start by cutting these sleeves and the neck out. The back of this shirt has a design that's pretty large, while the front of this shirt has a little design. Now I might need that little design, so I don't want to cut, like if I cut right here, it'd be right here. And that's a little too close. So what I'm going to do is, since I know this is a little lower down on the shirt, I'm going to cut from this side and I'll lay it out flat. I'll get my ruler. And before I get started as well, I do two different things. One, I cut this like this first before I put this on because I want the sleeves and the neck out of my way. And I don't want to use all this frivolously. I don't want to use it and have to throw it away because I've thrown all this stuff away. So I'm going to cut it down a little bit closer to the size, not necessarily the size I'm going to use, but closer to the size so I don't waste this stabilizer. What I normally, well, I'll go to that later. I'll take this and I'll go as close to this edge as I can. Because I don't know what size I'm going to cut these down to yet, because this size, let's see, this design is 12 by 9, but that doesn't mean all of them are going to be that size. So the easiest thing to do is cut them down as large as you can, and then we can come back down and trim it down later. You can't add it back, but you can trim it down. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just gonna cut this excess off. And then up here, I'm gonna cut all the way up here. Now, this piece is ready for me for when I decide what size I wanna cut them. So I'm just gonna fold that up, set it to the side. This piece, I don't yet know what I'm going to use this for or how I'm going to use it, but I know I'm going to cut this neck out. And I'm going to cut the rest of this sleeve off. And I'm going to leave this just like this. Now there is no way I'm going to put this into the t-shirt quilt looking like this. Too much blank space. But I probably will end up using this. I just don't know how I'm going to use it yet. I may need a strip down the side of the quilt to fill in a hole, in which case I'll use this. I may need one across the bottom, in which case I'll use this. So for that reason, I'm gonna put this to the side in a separate stack as pocket area designs. Small little designs, doesn't have to be a pocket area, but a little design. So I've got a big design stack and a little design stack. Then I'm gonna grab my next shirt and I'm gonna do the same thing. Let me get those out of my way so I don't cut them. This has that front pocket just like the last one did. So I'll do the same thing. Cut this sleeve off. And this sleeve off. It's better to be too big of a cut than too little of a cut. Then I'll cut the top off. Cut a little bit more right here on this edge. And it doesn't have to be like, see this right here? It doesn't have to be perfect yet because we haven't cut it down to size that we're gonna actually use. So here's my big design. That'll go in my big designs. This one, I know I want that neck gone, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it. And then there's my pocket area. Again, I know I'm gonna cut those down later. I just don't know how I'm gonna use it, so I'm not doing any more to it yet. This has no back and just a front. So I'm gonna cut it the same way over here. And since there's no back, we don't care about no other side to it. We don't care about how low we cut that. Now, here is my big design for the fronts. So I'll put that in my big designs. And then this is just a blank piece of fabric. There's no design on it at all, but I'm gonna save it because we don't know what we're gonna need in the end. We might need one little 4x4 square, or we might need one big whatever. We don't know yet. So for that reason, I'm gonna save this one. Now, there's two ways to put quilts together. There's probably more, but two that I use. One is the puzzle piece method where I just piece them together like a puzzle. The other one is sashing, where they're all gonna be the same size. This one is a sashing quilt. So I'm not gonna need this, but I'm showing you this because in the puzzle piece method where you're just randomly putting them together, this one might be used. So I would make a separate stack for that one. I would have my pocket designs, my blank, and then my big designs. But again, for this one, I won't need that, but I'm just showing you that. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna do this with all the shirts. Cut them as big as I can get them. This is a child's shirt, so it's not quite as large, but we can still use it. And then another pocket area. I'm going to keep going, cutting all of these shirts just like I've shown you, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how we use this. When I'm done cutting all my shirts, I'll pile them to the side, and the first thing I do is I go through and see what the biggest design is. And I think the biggest design on this one was this shirt. And so I want my squares, since it's going to be sashed, I want them all the same size and I want them squares. So I can do a 15 by 15 inch block. And you can do them smaller if your designs are smaller, but mine, the biggest design requires it to be a 15 by 15 inch block. So I'm taking one of my squares. It's not necessarily cut perfectly straight, doesn't matter. I'm putting it on the wrong side of the shirt. I'm taking one cut that's at least 15 inches of this, the P44F backing, and I'm putting it straight down the middle. That means that my whole design right here is covered with backing of the P44F. So then I'm going to take my iron and I'm just going to press this down to heat it down. The other side of this P44F has glue, and this will stick it to the back of the shirt. This part takes a little bit of time to heat this down, but it's not bad. Then I'll move it up a little, and I'll make sure that this bottom part is done. I don't necessarily have to do all of this. Let me get this out of your way. I don't necessarily have to heat all this down because I know that's going to be extra. I just haven't cut it off yet. But you can. You can save this, don't heat it down, and you can piece it back together. So when I get to the end and I've got a little pieces like this, I just lay them on there and piece them together, and I save that P44F. So there's my shirt. It has no wrinkles in it. It's flat, and it is ready to cut down to size to put into my t-shirt quilt. So I'm going to move it to the side. I'm going to get my next shirt, and I'm going to do the same thing. Flatten it out to where there's no wrinkles. Get me a cut of that P44F. When you're using this, make sure you put the bumpy side down. That's the glue side. You don't want it to glue to the iron. So you'll put the bumpy side against the back of the shirt. Make sure there's no wrinkles in it. Do the same thing again. I don't necessarily want to slide this iron on here, because then it might cause wrinkles. I might get a ripple in it, and I don't want that. Then I'm going to move it to the top a little bit because I want to make sure this bottom part of the shirt is in it too. And now when I turn it over, there's my shirt. Perfectly flat, not a wrinkle in it, and it's going to be easier to work with when I get together all the shirts to put for this t-shirt quilt. So I'm going to keep going with these. I'm going to do all the shirts the same way I just showed you how to do those two. And then I'm going to come back and we will do the next step. It's not hard. A lot of people are intimidated by these. It's not hard at all. It's just really time consuming. And that's where the expense comes in. You get, you have to buy the backing, the batting, the P44F. You have to cut the shirts. You have to do this step to it. Then you have to sew them together. You have to sash it if you're going to sash it. You have to back it. It takes a long time, and it's got a lot of supplies going into it. So a lot of people think t-shirt quilts are too expensive. No, when you get started making them, you won't say that anymore. But they are a great way to keep memories and not clutter up a closet. So I'm going to keep doing this with all of these shirts, and I'll come back to you. We've got all of our shirts backed with the P44F now, so we are ready. We do know that our largest design would be a 15 by 15 design. So we're going to need, or a little bit smaller than that, but we're going to need all of our squares to be cut to the 15 by 15 size. And I'm going to show you how I do that. The biggest thing to remember in this is ironing this bubble side to the back of the shirt. If you got that, you're good to go. It's all easy from there. Just time consuming, like I said. So we're going to get started on cutting these. We've got the 15 by 15 we know we want. I'm going to cut it using this ruler because I left my other one at home. I went to Lowe's or Home Depot, they both do it, and cut some plexiglass to the sizes I want. It makes this a whole lot simpler. I did all the different sizes. I got one piece of plexiglass and they'll cut it however you want it. I've got 4-inch squares, I've got 6-inch squares, 5-inch squares, 9.5-inch squares. I've got all the different size squares. But yeah, the size I need today, I left at home because I'm also working on one there. So I'm not using that method today. I'm just gonna cut them using a traditional cut. So I'm gonna straighten this side out, making sure that it is a straight cut. I know I want them 15 inches. This one is a little over 15. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull it to the side right here so that it's lined up with this mat on the 15-inch line. Then I'm gonna go to the 15-inch line here. And I'm gonna cut this side. Now that left my design pretty much in the center, which is what I want. If it's more leaning to a lot of blank space this way, then I'd want to cut all of my cuts off of this side. I just want to make sure that I keep this design in the center of this piece. And now I need it to be 15 inches this other way too, so I'm going to straighten off that edge, line it up on the mat, and then go to the 15-inch mark, which would be right here. Well, I don't want to cut right there because my design would be cut. So I'm going to come up here just a little bit and just cut right there. Then I'm going to turn this around, line it up here again, and cut on the 15-inch down here. Which is right here. That way, my design is in the center of this piece. And now I've got a 15 by 15 inch block. I'm going to put this to the side and I'm going to do the same thing with my next block. So I'll just take a little bit off this side to straighten it up. Line it up on the mat. Go to the 15 on this side. And it looks like it's almost right. I'm going to go to 15.5. Cut that side off. Turn it back around. And cut that 1/2 inch off of this side. Because if I'd have cut it all on one side, this would not be quite so centered. And I want it centered. Then I'm going to straighten up this edge here so that it's a straight cut. I'm going to go to the 15-inch mark. And I can't cut this one off here because I don't want any more cut off there, but that was the neckline of the shirt. So this will have a little extra space down there, that's fine. When I don't have a choice, that's fine. Now this piece here, I can cut this off. And I can use this by piecing it together with other pieces and use this on like the pocket areas if I needed to use them, or put it together on a big piece like this later. I've already got all mine cut, so I don't think I'm going to need it, but I do want to remind y'all, keep these because it's saving on it. Plus, you don't have to buy more of this backing if you don't need to. You can piece this together, and once you heat it down, it becomes one big piece anyway. So you're not wasting that way. I'm going to keep going with all my shirts. I'm going to keep cutting them down to the 15-inch blocks. And then I'll come back when we've got them all cut. And I'll show you the next step. I got to the end of the putting them together and I need one more block. So because there wasn't a 2020 peach jam and all the shirts were in date order, but I had a hole at 2020, so I needed to do something. So I'm going to take these pocket designs and I'm going to use them in that hole where there wasn't a peach jam that year. And remember when I said I take these scraps, this is what I do. I take them and I just line them up, make sure the glue side's down, and they'll work just like one big piece did. So now that one is done. I'm going to do the same thing. I had bigger pieces over here, so I'm going to do these the same way so that all of these pocket designs are backed with this stabilizer. And then I had a few extra pieces, so I'll just put them going this way. That'll be an extra for next time. There. Now all of my pockets are backed with the stabilizer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate how big they need to be, because I've got 6 of these, but I need it to be a 15.5-inch square. So I'm going to sew them together and see how I need to measure them, and then I'm going to sew them together however I need to sew them together. Here is my block of the t-shirt pocket areas. And how I did it was, I knew I needed it 15 tall and 15 wide. So I knew I had about 5 inches for each one. So I cut them to 6.5 inches to give me some wiggle room. And I cut them to 6.5 inch tall, and then didn't care about the width right now. And what I did was I sewed them together, but when I sewed them, I made sure that I didn't have a whole lot of space here, because up here and down here I could cut off all the excess, and that way I didn't really have to calculate too terrible much. So I put those together and those together, and then I put those two together, and then I just cut the sides off, and now it's a 15-inch block, so I can put it in to where there wasn't a 2020 peach jam. So now this will be my block for that one. So let's go put it together. Now what I did is I laid them out in date order. So it starts in 2010 here for the t-shirts up here, and then it goes down to 2025. And this pocket design shirt right here is the 2020 when they didn't have a peach jam. So now they're all in order. I'm going to stack them up in rows and then go to the sewing machine and sew these rows together. I've got my shirts ready. I've got my sashing ready. This customer wanted theirs evenly squared up. So all the squares will be the same size, all the t-shirts same size, and sashed, meaning a piece of fabric that goes in between each block, so it kind of frames each t-shirt. So I've got me one big stack right here, and they're in date order. They started, this t-shirt quilt starts in 2010. So I'm gonna move this to the side. I'm gonna take 2010 and I'm gonna put it right here. I'll take one sash. These are 15-inch blocks squared up. So that means they go 15 inches wide and 15 inches tall. So I've cut some 15-inch strips. They wanted navy for the backing and the sashing. So I've got 15-inch strips, and I am going to lay it here on this side, and you may not have to pin it, but I'm going to pin it for the sake of this video to show y'all, just so it doesn't move at all. Better safe than sorry. So I've got it pinned, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch down this side. Now they're 4 blocks wide, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put a sash over here, because I can do one long sash all the way up and down that side of the quilt. So I don't need to waste my time on a sash here right now. I'm going to sash this side, and then I'll sash the next one and the next one. And the last one, I won't do the right side sash because I can do that whole long sash again. So for this first one, I am going to sew this at 1/4 inch. And your sashing, you can make it whatever size you want, but I did my sashing for this quilt at 3 inches. So by the time it sews up, it won't be 3 inches, but for cutting purposes, it will. Because I've got a 1/4 inch seam on each side of it, it'll end up being a 2.5 inch sewn in piece. So I'm going to take this out now, and then I'll iron this open. And once I've ironed it open, I'll take the next shirt, and I just have to remember that there's only 4 going across. So I'll take my second shirt and lay it with the right sides together, both facing up so that my writing is going towards me. Make sure it's lined up good. Pin it. And then sew it at 1/4 inch. I'm not sewing over my pins. I've put them in to where they're a little bit further out so they don't mess with me when I'm sewing. Then I'll iron this open, and it's time for another sash. So I'll line it up, pin it down, sew it, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the next block. And then I'll come back. I've got my first row done, and it looks like this. So you'll notice that there's no sash on this side, and there's no sash on this side. We're going to do one long sash all the way down both sides, and the same for the top and the bottom. So now that I've got 4 shirts with the sashing only in those middle pieces, I'm going to keep going. This is row 1, and I'm going to do all the other rows just like this. And when I get them done, I'll come back and I'll show you how to sash in between them. Once I get my rows together, I've got all 4 looking like this. No sashing on the ends, but the middles are sashed. So now what I need to do is measure this strip, and it measures 66 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut. I've got 4 rows. I've got the top of one, the bottom of one, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because my sashing that I've already added in here now is 3 inches, I need this sashing to be 3 inches too. And because this fabric is 108, I won't need as many strips because it's a longer piece of fabric. But I'm going to cut a couple strips because I will also need them for the top and the bottom. And now that I've got my strips cut, I'll measure one strip to be 66 inches. And then I'll have some extra out of it because this is a 108 fabric. And then I'll sew that to another one, and I'll measure 66 again. And for each row, I'll have 66 inches on the top, on the bottom, and then the rows in between. I'll do the same thing. I'll now sew them on and iron them open. And then I'll do the same thing for the side row, the columns area. And then I'll sew those strips down there. and then my quilt top will be complete and ready to put on the long arm. I've got my first row, and I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to put a crease right there at that half mark, which is going to be right there. That's going to mark my center. Then I've got my sash cut to the size I need it, and the fold is in the center there, so I'm going to pin that in the center. Then I'm going to take this sash, this sashing, and I'm going to pin it all the way down this side. Then I'm going to pin it all the way down this side, and then I'll sew it. That way it doesn't make wrinkles for your quilt. If you go from one side to the other, it tends to put wrinkles in it, so it makes a wavy sashing. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to pin it going all the way down, and then I'll go back and do it the other way. Then I'll sew it 1/4 inch down this line, and I'll do it in between each row, and then we'll come back and see it. Well, I'm back at the house now, and still not finished with this quilt, so working on it from home tonight. I've got all of my rows with a top sash, not a bottom sash. So now I'm going to put my rows in order and put them together, because when I put them together, that bottom sash will come from the top sash from the row before it, after it, I mean. So I'm going to put these together, and I'm going to line them up. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. This is my second row. This is my first row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the first row on top of the second row, and I want these to line up. I don't want them off to the side like that. So I want them lined up like that. So I'm going to take the first row and flip it over onto the second row. I will pin, and I'm going to do each row just like this. I'll pin the edge of this row. Then I'll come over to this sash, and I'll line these up like that. I'll fold this one back, line them up, and then I'm just going to kind of roll it up, making sure it's still lined up. And then when it gets to the top, I'll pin it. And I'll probably pin it a couple of times, one on each side. And then when I open it back up, it's going to be lined up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pin them like that, and then I'm going to check it each time just to make sure I've got it lined up. I'm not going to pin in the middle just yet. I'll go back and do that, but I'm going to line these sashings up first. So I'm going to lay it flat. Lay this sash on that sash, roll it up to the top, little by little, making sure it's still lined up. And then I'll pin both sides of that sash, and when I open it up, it's lined up. So that one's right. I'll do the same thing with this one. This will be the last one for this row because the ends don't have the sashing yet. So I'll line it up, roll it up. When it gets to the top, pin it. And then between each pin set, it should lay pretty flat, and it does. So I don't necessarily need to pin that. I can. It wouldn't hurt to keep them lined up, but that's a preference thing. Then I'll go down here and I'll pin this end piece. And now I'm ready to go back to the start, and I'm ready to start stitching 1/4 inch down this side. So this right here is what I'm saying. You can pin it like this one. I think I am gonna pin so it stays lined up. Pull my thread out just a little bit. Okay. Start stitching this at 1/4 inch. I'll pull my pins out as I get to them. I put my pins in a little bit further than where my 1/4 inch line is. Let me turn you so you can see it a little bit better. I put my pins to where I'm not going to run over them, and I don't have to take them out before I get to them. Now when I cut my thread, I'll pull it out and they're lined up. Each of my columns, the sashing is lined up. So now I'll take this one, bring it up here, and I'll find my next row, which they're in number order. So that's my last row. Here's my next row. And because I already did the top sash, all I do is flip these on top of each other and do the same thing. So I'll do what we just did on the other rows to this row and the row below it. Then I'll come back and we'll do the side sashings. I added a sash to the bottom row, and now all my sashes going to the sides are done. See if you can see it. I have it sideways. There you go. All of my blocks are sashed, and now I need to sash down the side. I'm going to do the sides the same way I did the going across. I'm going to be doing the same way as I went across. I'll do the same way as I go down the sides. I will measure the length, and then I'll put a strip down both sides, starting in the middle and then pinning out. And then once I get that done, we are done with the quilt top. All we need to do then is sandwich it with the batting behind it, the backing behind that, and then put it on the long arm. So let's keep going. I'll show you what the finished product looks like, and then the next step will be to put it on the long arm, hopefully tomorrow. Here's the quilt top once it's finished. All the sashings are on it. Everything's measured the same. And now we are ready to get it on the long arm. Today's project is going to be to quilt the quilt that we made yesterday. And what we start with was we've cut our backing, and we've cut our backing at least a couple inches up to about 4 inches on each side so that we have the room to roll it on the machine. So we've got that. Here's our quilt top. We've got our backing, and we're gonna unroll it. And then we're gonna put it on this machine and put it up here using red snappers. There's lots of different ways you can do. You can pin them up here. There's a zipper method. There's red snappers. We use red snappers because it's easier. So let me show you how. We'll take these red snappers, which are just little strips like this, and they clip onto here rather than using pins. So I'll take this fabric, lay it over this bar that's in here, and then I'll clip it down. And it's that easy. Now we'll roll it towards us. And just make sure there's no wrinkles in it. So we'll keep it straight and wrinkle free. And then once we roll it all the way up here, we'll pull it to the other side of the frame. When I'm finished rolling this side, I pull it over to this side, and I'll just pull it until I can reach this side. And this has that bar in it too that these adhere to. So I just hold it there in place, snap it on this side just like I did the other side. Then when I'm done attaching that, I roll this backwards. Then I go back to the other side. When I drop it over there, then I can roll it back towards me to pick up that slack. And I'll just make sure there's still no wrinkles in it. And by the way, ignore all that mess in the back. That's all the batting rolls that just came back in. And then a bunch of projects we got to do. So we're busy. We'll be busy for a while. Once we've got this loaded, then we get our binding, which is just a little bit larger than our backing. And then we lay it on there. Flatten it out, and then we put our quilt top on. Once we have it lined up and wrinkle free, then we take the bottom part that's hanging on the floor and put it in this net. It's called a hammock. That way it doesn't drag the floor and get all dirty. Now we're ready to turn the machine on and start stitching. One important thing to remember before you start stitching is to oil your machine. Everyone does it different as far as frequency. I tend to use my machines all day, every day, so I oil mine every morning. Now, if you're only sewing maybe an hour a day or 2 hours a day and a couple times a week, you don't need to do it every day. Once a week is probably fine. It just depends on your frequency of sewing. I sew and quilt a lot, so I do mine every day. It doesn't hurt it to do it every day, so that's what I do. So now let's oil it and get started sewing. Once we've got it threaded and oiled, we are ready to go. We'll take the top corner, put my needle down and up, and I'll pull that bobbin thread up. Now that I've got 2 threads at the top, I'm ready to start stitching. I just tack it down this side, and then I start stitching all the way from one side to the next. I'm just going to keep doing this all the way down to the end. Then I'll roll this on this frame, and then I will keep doing it until I get to the end. Then we'll be ready to bind. I'm back at the house now and ready to start binding. So I am going to take my binding strips, which are 2.5 inches wide, fold them in half, then lay them like this along my quilt. I'm just pinning it in the middle of one of the sides, and then I'll start stitching. And I've got multiple videos out there on how to bind, so refer back to that if you need to know how to bind. But we are on the final stages of this quilt. So I'm gonna bind it, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. And this is what it looks like when it's finished. It's bound, it's done, and it's ready to pass off to the customer, which is the chamber. And they will have it in their office. Looks good. So thank y'all for watching. You guys have a great rest of your week, and happy quilting.